Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Onion Soup, the show where we pull back the layers of metaphysics and reality in order to demystify spirituality. And I'm really excited about today. I'd like to welcome back Miss Joanna. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me back. I'm very, very excited about our
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah, thanks for coming back. So, a lot of times, like we have people come back on often, but you're just here. But the other day, we had such a great conversation directly after the show. We were both like, no, we have to get behind the camera and talk about this.
Yes,
So let's
yes,
let's get right into it. I guess let's start with the fun, unique, and interesting things that you see.
yes. So let's get started. Exactly. So let's start with my personal experiences and how it actually goes into what we're going to talk about this otherworldly phenomenon that we're going to tie it in with science. This is the point. We're in a time of humanity now where it's not just discussing spiritual, like theories. Now we're going to back it up with scientific, notions and experiments and facts. So what happened to me in 2012? I'm going to tell you a few experiences I had, but let's start with that one. In 2012, I had a very out of this world phenomenon experience. So the Mayan had predicted that on December 21st, 2012, there's going to be a shift. And I was very skeptical. I mean, just being, like a healthy skeptic, very skeptical. What even was? I was, that day I didn't plan anything. I was just kind of just minding my own business, just doing something. And the thing is, I actually did, and I'll tell you what happened to me personally. That was really mind blowing. On that day, around 10:19 at night, I think it was 19, I heard this frequency, and the best way I could describe it is if you hear like one of the tuning forks,
Mhm.
and you hit the tuning forks, and it was right next to my ear, both of my ears, so loud, and my whole brain just vibrated, and it happened for about 2-3 minutes. And I thought that was just weird. And next thing I know is I see a green orb floating around my room. And again, I was like, this is just bizarre. Oh, what am I going to say? So, of course, the next day I asked neighbors, I asked, people around that I lived, was there any music? Was there like gongs playing? Anything at all that for me to debunk what was happening. And it was a very quiet building I live in. It was in Copenhagen, Denmark. Very quiet people, generally speaking. And even the next day, on the news, there was nothing. There's nothing like, oh, revelation or something. So I kind of went about my day. And about 5, 6 months after that, I started seeing out of nowhere, really, the holographic codes and images of our reality, basically. So when I say this, what I mean is, imagine seeing something that doesn't belong in this earth, right? And when I say that, the best example I can give is when I was watching the Simpsons episode, and it was like he was in the 2D, I think, don't quote me on this, the 2 or the 3D, and he was looking at another D, like another dimension, fourth or fifth. Don't quote me on which one he saw. And he was looking at it like it didn't belong in his reality. So when I see these codes, that's the best example I could describe visually so people could understand. So when I see these codes, as you want to call it, it's basically see-through, but it's like crystalline. It's like a crystal, but it's see-through. So these codes are like kundalini. They're kind of looped and this like kind of tapestry in a sense you want to say it, but only you only see a piece of it. And that piece that you see is actually where you are now in your life. This is what I was told. Because it took me a while to process this. It took me years. I mean, this is 2012. And first I didn't believe what I was seeing, first of all. I tried to debunk it, by the way, and 11 years fast forward, I was guided because I'm also a medium, by the way. So, as being a medium, I could hear the other side, which is really right here. We'll discuss that also in this chat. So, by hearing the other side, which is really just a layer right here, they were telling me and explaining to me what this is. So, by seeing this tapestry of your life, you see the points of where you are, and which timelines you are at. Meaning we have destiny and we have free will. This is what I was told. Now they tie in together. Now, when you see this codes, the ones that are more closer to you, those are the ones you actually focused on. This is what this is what they were telling me, and you actually bring it closer to your reality. And the ones that actually are there, but it's actually more see through and a little bit more in the back, you could say, that's actually something you have on your mind, but you're not bringing it closer to your reality. So the another thing they also explained to me is that we live in layers of realities. Now, what does that even mean? I'll give you the most basic one that maybe everybody could have an awareness of: the spirit world. I have a course that I created that actually explains the layers. And there's like, you could say in a sense, infinite, but there's actually a handful of them that actually I'm aware of. So I kind of put that in my course. Now, the spirit world is the most commonly known that it does exist because the thing is, I see the spirits. I can't deny what I actually physically see when they touch me. I hear them, I smell them. I can't deny that. So, by also me being a medium and now understanding the other layers that exist on top of each other, um, the way that they work basically is, in our reality, kind of just gonna say it all at once, and then we're gonna kind of go into the scientific aspects. Okay, the last thing I'm gonna mention, and we can just delve into the scientific thing, is also the I see many different things, including the atoms. That's another element I see. So I see the layers of this reality, including the spiritual world, the other layers of energetic worlds. There's the dream world. There's the also the world of the energy. That is energy. Everything is energy. So I also see atoms. Now, what does that mean? What do you mean you see atoms? And it's not dust. Trust me, I've seen it for so long that I try to debunk it. I mean, really. But I will explain what I see first. So when I see particles of atoms, basically, and it only started happening about not 2012 actually, it started happening a little later. What I see is I basically a particle of atom, how it looks like, is basically a firework. What I see, but when I see this firework, it doesn't just like explode and just go outward. It actually the little energy balls, the little energy like we're going to explain scientifically just in a sec. It goes in all directions. It goes down, up, out, just everywhere, but it never touches each other. Now, these energy balls have a nucleus in the middle, and that nucleus, what I see, is invisible, but it is magnetic. It like holds it together. And it happens every second. Every second, it's like an explosion, creation. Every second, that's what I see. Now, these energy balls are all around us, like just everywhere, but they're energy balls all around our whole reality. This is our creation. Our reality is created by these photonic energies, light. We're light. The creation we're creating is light. That's why they say that 99% of our universe is nothing. That they say nothing. It's not nothing. It's actually light. So because light, in a sense, is invisible to our physical eye, not through other dimensions, but in this realm, we say it's nothing because it's empty, but it's really not. So this creation that we have is we are light. The energy that we have all around us is the photonic energies. So I kind of threw in a few few things that I see, and I know kind of dive right into it because it was just so exciting to mention. And I definitely want to just kind of discuss scientifically, Dexter, what you um, have in mind and what you think about some of the things that I see, and we'll kind of maybe go over even more things. So,
Yeah,
what is your
for
thoughts?
sure. So, first of all, I it's funny because when I talk to people about energy and I say that everything is energy, what I typically like to do is go from, well, there's the esoteric sense and the metaphysical sense, but then there's the very physical, scientific. Everything literally is energy. You know, if you could take anything that has mass and you zoom in on it with a microscope, the further you zoom in, you'll find the atoms that you're talking about. And I find it funny that when people go to school and we talk about atoms, the way that they teach atoms and molecular structures in school is that there's like a small ball and then these orbital rings around it.
Yes.
And that's simply not the case. It's actually
No.
called or considered the classical version of an atom, and that's not how we recognize atoms anymore. Atoms are exactly how you explained. It's a ball of energy, which we would call the nucleus, and even that nucleus is broken up into, quarks, these leptons and these super small subatomic particles that literally hold them together. And then I'm sure our scientists are gonna find out that those are made up of more smaller versions of energy, but it's these small quarks that literally hold the particle of mass. I mean, this small particle itself together. We haven't even really gotten to mass yet. And that small particle around it has what's called the electron cloud. And that's what you were talking about before with the energy shooting in every direction. I remember I was in it was one of the physics classes. It was either like I think it might have been like physical chemistry or biophys, something like that. And anyway, so my professor had this this super cooled container, super cooled unit, and you could actually see the energy shoot off from this hyper cooled cloud. And obviously um it was slowed down enough to where you could see it, but it was still, like, fast, like, it was still, like, really fast burst of light and energy. And the thing about energy is that and light energy, photons, particles, you could never know the position or the speed and location of things at the exact same time. It's actually called the uncertainty principle because the way that time works, first of all, time is the way that I recognize time is a static field. You can't increase time, you can't decrease time. You can only change your position relative to another point within that time space, within that time field. And this is why when we look at people say in upper dimensions or whatever that time doesn't exist. The reason why time doesn't exist is because those upper level entities are actually able to perceive various objects in the same space at the same time. So, like, what do I mean, right? So, my example I used last time was my mug. So, if I have my mug and I have my mug sitting right here, there's not another object that can actually occupy this space relative to the mug sitting right here because it's currently occupying this space at this time in this unit. Well, a upper dimensional being will be able to not just recognize that there's a mug sitting here, they can also recognize that there's a mat sitting here as well, the coaster, or maybe there's something else hovering right there. All these things can occupy the same space at the same time. Well, same they can occupy the same space, not at the same time. But an upper dimensional being has the ability to see through that dimensional time. So they can separate that time space and that space time continuum. And I really want to jump back way to the beginning where you were talking about the Mayan prophecy, because I think that a lot of times when people refer to the Mayan prophecy, we look at the Mayan calendar and everybody's saying, well, the world was going to end and so on and so forth. And that was a lot of what was going on back in 2012. People thought the world was ending, and that's not what happened. What happened is, just like the calendars we have today, we don't project our calendars like extremely far into the future. We might project them a year, 2 or 3. The Mayans projected their calendar. It's called the uh, celestial calendar or the galactic calendar, universal calendar. It's really just the alignment of the planets. So that's how large their calendar was. They didn't predict past the end alignment of the planets. It's just the planets aligned and then started the new era, the new age, and we started entering into the age of Aquarius. So now we're in this whole new paradigm. So that's what that paradigm shift was. It wasn't about the destruction of one time period. It's literally just like how we go into a different zodiac every month. It's literally going into a different zodiac for the next, I forget how long the calendar is, like 3,200 years or something like that. Don't quote me, but it's somewhere around there.
Yeah.
But when we start talking about being able to see these crystalline structures, as you put them, and the upper dimensions. One thing I like to point out to people is everything that we see and what we would consider our physical world, physical reality, is a very slim slither of visible light on this massive electromagnetic spectrum. there are other if things can exist in this very small space of visible light, it
Yeah.
makes sense that there can be other things that exist outside of that spectrum. And I use the word exist and not necessarily live because there's a scientific definition of life, but then that doesn't necessarily mean that something that is conscious isn't alive because anything that has energy has its own form of consciousness. It just might not be conscious in the way that we perceive consciousness. Just like an ant is conscious, but it might not be aware that it's an ant. Also, do we really care if there's an ant crawling across our desk? The same thing and same perspective would be that of an upper level entity or being. Their consciousness wouldn't be the same as our consciousness, but do they really care if we happen to uh, really walk by? They can perceive us and interact with us at any moment that they can. So as we start to progress in this paradigm shift and in our own spirituality, we start to become more aware of things that exist just outside of that visible spectrum, just outside of that audible spectrum. And that's when people start to see the things that exist on different layers and in different dimensions. And then there's also the varying definitions of dimensions because there are the mathematical spatial dimensions, right? But then there's also dimensions where, even in mathematics, there are shapes that move in and out of each other in order to occupy all the space in various times. The one that most people are familiar with would be the tesseract, right? So the tesseract is a hypercube that infinitely moves in and out of itself. That's how it would look in 2D and in 3D because it's hard for our minds to conceptualize that, but it's literally just occupying every space
Mhm.
within itself at the same time. And then that's when we start getting into the 4th and 5th dimensions. So if shapes can do that, it makes sense that those upper dimensional beings can do this. Now, for anybody that's ever had some type of hallucinogenic trip, maybe on like magic mushrooms or stuff like that, you might have seen what people call the they call her Mother Aya if you do ayahuasca. And you start seeing, like, these gnomes and stuff like that, and they oftentimes get reported with having multiple faces that kinda move in and out of themselves. And many spiritual individuals, such as mediums and intuitives, can do this without the, hallucinogens. But the reason why their faces move like that is because 'cause they're occupying various spaces at the exact same time. Time is truly time is relative to the individual observer in the first place. But okay, I feel like I'm rambling, I'm sorry.
No, no. Can I just add to that? That's exactly. I just want to just do a disclaimer for people so they're just aware. I do not do any drugs. I do
Yeah.
not even smoke cigarettes. I don't. I drink, but on occasion, I do have my glass of wine and stuff, or drinks with friends. But I'm not on any medication. I am mentally clear. I'm not on mentally incoherent. I've been checked. Trust me. I actually went because I had when I was a child anxiety, and he said you're absolutely normal. Like you're absolutely fine. There's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with you. So I just want to kind of get that disclaimer that I actually see it in real time. And I just kind of want to just throw in a few things about time. Now, this is what they mentioned to me. So I'm just going to mention when I channel and I get information, I just get it and I just say it, knowing if it's the true or not, because to me it is true, because all the things I've been saying, I see it and they're explaining it to me. So being the first thing people have to understand is they're all psychic. We're all going to see this in our own time, our own soul evolution. If you don't see this in this lifetime, if you return an incarnation in another lifetime, you might have signed up to see what, just to evolve in your own soul and start to see other layers like spirits and ghosts. And I've seen so many people I've been talking to that are channeling more,
Mhm.
like the tarot readers are seeing ghosts and giving me stories of strange phenomena that they've had, and the most important to remember is that when people start to see this otherworldly phenomena, all across the board it's going to happen, is to remember that time, when they told me about time, in your own time, like everybody has lessons in their life, and they're just kind of telling me to say it's a little bit out of context, but we're going to get back into it, I promise. Time, what is time? I know time, people say time does not exist, but actually in a sense it does and it doesn't, right? Right. It doesn't, because there's no it's infinite. Okay, but what we cannot understand in the human capacity infinity. We can't, because that's not really where we are in our evolution yet. We know the idea, but we can't comprehend that yet, the infinity of us. So time to me, they said, basically is elastic. So they said, basically, Joanna, think of it this way. You have, everybody has lessons in this life. I'm gonna go more of the etheric, like a philosophy, and then come back to the science. Everybody in the incarnation on earth has lessons, no matter who you are. You could be like Dalai Lama, Jesus. Oh, he had lessons, and you're giving what it's called the time, and time is elastic, meaning here's the free will and the destiny. So let's say you're given this time to go through the lesson, and let's say you actually don't cut off that lesson when you're kind of, I don't say supposed to. There's no such thing as supposed to, right? Everything is divine timing, and I'll explain that in a second what they told me. So you're given this time where the time actually extends. It's like, and it's not just like a rubber band this way, it actually goes in all different directions, right? But time is elastic. But it comes to a point, there's a point of an endpoint where the elastic only stretches so much. You're actually given time, but the lessons you have, as I like to call it, the tower moment. So you're given this time, and if you don't learn the lesson, either it could be your whole life, but it could be a certain point where it actually something has to happen. If you do not like walk away from a relationship, change a job, something very impactful happens to end it, because it's part of the destiny you have. So also with the destiny and free will, this is also what they said, and we can translate this, is about this cube. I want to kind of go into when you mentioned the cube. This is where it's relevant about time and the cube. It's really epic in my mind, at least. Where now time, how does destiny lie with free will? I want to explain this. This is what they told me. Now, with this elastic time, you're given time to do things, and you go, okay, Joanna, I'm given time, so how is everything still meant to be, still come at perfect timing, and just at the right moment, like a leaf falling from a tree is actually falling at the perfect exact moment. Everything in this existence, on in this creation, is perfection. Why? Because everything, imagine a Rubik's Cube, and you didn't make that change yet, but it shifts and rotates, and everything realigns exactly as it should to get to you for your exact point. So everything is perfection. So even your challenges you think and you delay or don't do, or whatever the case is, there's no blame. That's what Source also said to me. There's no blame. Everything gets rearranged as it should. Everything in this existence of creation is perfection. I mean, this is the Omega we're talking about. This is God, after all. I mean, like, this is perfection after all, Like, you're perfect, I'm perfect. Really, even the worst of the worst is perfection. And this is like mind blowing for people to understand that. How can that be? And this is the way that they explain it to me, that I can explain it to people where they visually could kind of see something and understand a Rubik's as it changes and shifts. So I just wanted to add that in, and that I think I'm rambling on too, because this is just so exciting to talk about. And
No,
just
it's
Dexter, tell me with some of
it's
the things that
perfectly
I said.
fine, it's perfectly fine. I actually really love what you say about the elasticity of time. So to put that in more of a, let's say, more where people can understand how time can be elastic, because we all experience this, you probably just don't think about it, is we've all experienced moments where it feels as if time slowed down. Especially if you've had a moment where your life has flashed before your eyes, perhaps you almost got into a car accident or something like that. You notice time physically like it slows down. And there are also moments where time speeds up. And they say time flies when you're having fun. And you sit down and you do something, and how did I just lose 2 or 3 hours? So when I say that time is static, the time itself didn't actually change. Your perception and awareness of that time is what changed. So to break that down a little bit further, a lot of us have seen the Marvel movies. So
Oh yes.
in the first Doctor Strange movie, when the Sorcerer Supreme dies, right before she dies, she astral projects out of her body, like through this window, and she says, "I've never seen beyond this point, and here I am stretching time because I don't know what's going to happen next." So the time itself didn't change. The things around her slowed down. It's just her perception of that reality. She chose to stretch out. And that's when people have control over slowing down their minds. Now you might think, well, we can't do that. That's a movie. Well, we do that in meditation at all times. So whenever you go into meditation, time seems to kind of slow down a little bit. You literally slow down your breathing, you slow down your heart rate, and you're able to perceive really the inner self is the goal, but you're able to perceive reality differently. Conversely, when you go to sleep, you went to sleep for hours, and oftentimes it doesn't seem like that was the case. So this is how time can be elastic and time can be stretched. And when you were talking about us having, um, let's say a destiny to do certain things, it's more so the fact, at least from my perspective, is more so, like you said, the lessons that are meant to be learned. You're gonna learn the lesson. So it's just whether or not you learn it within this lifetime, as you said, or within the next. And the reason why you're gonna learn that lesson is because everything that is going to exist already exists. Everything that has existed well before it was created. Nothing can be created nor destroyed. Energy just transforms from one form to another. That's the law of conservation of mass and energy. You know, the physics is still there. It's just our understanding of the physics is what's evolving. The science itself has always been there. It's just our understanding of it is what evolves.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Dexter. When you just tie it, like, I mentioned the spirituality and then you translate it. It's great. So people can understand with both sides because, you have your audience is also the spiritual side and then, the scientific and merging the two. This is where we're at. And it's so exciting to merge the two and now kind of put here's the event and now let's explain it. And this is where science is and it's amazing. And I kind of want to just kind of go into something really quick where they explain how we actually create our this creation. I actually want to go into that and I didn't tell you this last time because there's so much to say. Really, we can't just even do it in a few conversations. But I just want to get into it because they're letting me know to kind of just mention it. And so when they kind of mention the word like that we are gods, you're God, I'm God, everybody's God, you're creating this yourself, really. You are God because God is you and you are God. It's even in the Bible. And I'm not going religious. I'm just kind of correlating that there's facts and all kinds of things. So how is that? How are you God and I am God? This is what they explained to me. I had like a download. So basically you're creating this reality. And the version of me that you see, I am multidimensional. What does that mean? I'm, in a sense, infinite. Not in a sense, I am infinite. There's infinite versions of me from the highest to lowest frequency that you could ever imagine. And I am at multiple places at once. I know it's such a hard thing to grasp for people, even myself in the beginning. So, when the version of me that you see is the vibration that you're giving off. So we are connecting, and what can like you could even do it in theory of manifesting all this stuff. You're magnetizing to you the reality of the versions that you believe to be true of basically of who you are, of what you hold in your energetic field. What meaning? What are you thinking? Because that is energy thought. What do you believe? And what do you believe you're going to have? Or what do you believe in me? And it's so important for people to understand that the version of me that you see is truth. And that's why there's no such thing as a truth. Wow, that's mind blowing. There's no such thing as a truth. Science is truth because that always evolves, but the core of it, there's laws in the universe actually. So the laws in the universe don't change. They just evolve. So that doesn't change. The science part, they just evolve. And our awareness, our perception expands, and so does our science awareness. But our reality is the truth that you see is your truth, and it will always be your truth because this is the reality you're creating. And my truth is always going to be my truth because this is what I'm creating. So it's so important to understand that you are creating this movie you're creating it all. I'm just an actress in your film, but what does that mean? I'm real. I'm a soul, but I am infinite, a multidimensional being that you're just magnetizing the version of me that you are yourself, and what you perceive me to be. So at the end of this movie that you're going to watch, and at the end of your life incarnation, you get to watch this movie, and you get to watch of how you treated others, how you were to others, and how you were to yourself. And you even get to the knowing of what others even thought of you, because in a sense they're actually a part of you because they were you, meaning you were just a projection of yourself onto them. If you believed I'm so and so, that's what you're going to see of me. Like I can give you a quick example, and then I'm going to stop with this. Because you can go on this download that I had is basically like if you see somebody, right, anybody, or even a pet, and you think of them as like the most amazing person in the world, you are actually are creating that version of them because and they're becoming that version that you believe. And if you think they're the worst person in the world, that's what you're going to see because that's the perception part. Because that's all God, Source, Omega, Almighty, you, that's you, wanted to see. You just wanted to experience life in your own perception, your own personal experience of how you wanted the world to see. And that's why we need to understand that when we say, oh, let's make the world a better place. And, even like Jesus in the Bible and all these other, highly prophetic people said, be the change, be the change, because that's what it means. You be the change because you're creating your world, and when you're the change, the collective shifts to that vibration. Because when you see me as the highest, most vibrational, loving person, and other people start to do that, that's how you raise. That's how we ascend. Like in a sense, individually and collectively. So I just kind of wanted to throw that in there. I didn't
You
mention to
know,
you this last time,
I
but
I love that because when I started, becoming an entrepreneur and I started walking away from, um, the science well, being a scientist, I'll never stop being a scientist, but when I started, wanting to change my life and reading more business books, I found it so interesting, the correlation between business and spirituality. For instance, the biggest business book anybody that wants to be an entrepreneur, I have yet to meet an entrepreneur who, hasn't either read or heard of Think and Grow Rich by
oh
Napoleon
yes,
Hill.
yeah,
Yeah.
great book.
It's
I
yes,
read it.
you
Yes.
yeah, everyone reads that, and the whole thing is really about manifestation, positive affirmations, thinking positively, and how you shift your reality, and this is not a spiritual book. This is a
No,
purely purely business. I think it was written in, like, the 30s or 40s or something like
yeah,
that, and,
yeah,
it just talks about how to shift your perspective, and by shifting your perspective and knowing what you want and not deciding to go get it, understanding that it's already yours. That's how you change the world around you, that's how you manifest, and that's how you attract, and really what I've gathered from that and other books is that we don't actually attract anything, we just resonate with things that are on our same vibrational frequency. So until you don't really you don't raise or lower your vibrational frequency, you actually just adjust your awareness of that vibrational frequency. So you become more aware of who you already were in the first place. And, just like when you're I don't know, I can't speak for anybody else, but as I got older, I start looking back at myself and I'm like, "Why did I do those?" That wasn't me. What is it? But I was only at the time, you can only act and as aware as you are. So nothing really changed about you aside from or nothing changed about me aside from my level of awareness of what I was doing and what was going on around me. And as that awareness changed, the people around me changed, and then my environment changed. So and that's the same thing with any form of manifestation. And when we talk about communicating with God, source, angels, just different beings, understand that those are just individuals, beings, entities that are also reflections of yourself. They're all just different versions of your higher self. Now, some of them you have greater connections to. Perhaps some of them are closer to you relative to your and their past lives or your and their energy or whatever. But it's all the same energy ultimately. Same thing with and I wanna touch on ancestors really quickly, I don't know why, but with that, we have our ancestors and people would say, "Well, are all of my angels my ancestors and all my ancestors angels?" Not necessarily because those ancestors also had their own energetic paths as well, and some of them need to repeat certain lessons, and some of them are able to move forward and maybe became teachers to help you get through your lessons. But that doesn't necessarily mean that all ancestors are angels. And by angels, I want to clarify that as well, because I don't particularly think that there are any. good or bad beings. I think I would say that everything is an energetic spectrum, just like there are no good or bad people, there's an energetic spectrum. Nobody is inherently bad. Nobody is all the way good. There's the yin and yang in all, you know? So you have these beings who do vibrate higher and resonate higher, and those are the ones that typically interact with you to help guide you. Just like there are some that vibrate on a different side of that frequency and have nefarious acts, but neither one is particularly good or bad. It's your perception, and we place those labels on top of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. And it's exactly, I'll just add to that because that's just beautiful what you said about that. Because when Source said to me, Joanna, it's all good. He said it's all good, and there's no good and bad. Like, what do you mean there's no good and bad? I mean, there's devastations and crime and I mean, all this heavy, heavy things, lessons, right? I'll just say lessons because that's what he basically, said is Joanna. Everything has a reason and a purpose. Trust that. And I actually was talking to somebody yesterday on a podcast, and he had something very, very tragic that had happened to him. And fast forward, he said, I get why it happened. He ended up on a wheelchair and stuff like that, and it was very, very challenging for him. And when he looked back on, he was like, Joanna, if that didn't happen to me, I would continue to be. You're going to see this podcast with this gentleman, so I just mentioned it. It's no secret. He said it. Continue to be a police officer. But because this happened to me, which I almost died, basically, he ended up being in a wheelchair. He ended up doing a podcast that's very successful. He's been doing it for over 10 years. And he said, now I could reach a broader audience, do what I really love, talk to all these really amazing people, and then, I'd still make income and have my days off, spend more time with my family, and not be in a position where I'm, danger to my life, So the point of that is that, any situation that we see bad or good, it's our perception of it. Even the worst of the worst. I know this is the most challenging thing in a human mind to say, how can you look at something that's so awful and say that there's any good from it? But the thing is, there is, because when we see examples given, when you see something awful, let's say somebody went through something so awful and then they rose above it, because of that was their destiny, their path, actually, and then they actually were the inspiration. Then they empower people to actually not do that and show awareness to that, whatever that is, right? And that's why it's almost like the contrast is necessary. It really is. And so said Joanna, I know it's not the, you know, happy, like to hear, but it's necessary. The contrast, because we, like you said, live in a yin and yang energies. And we came here not to live like euphoria and just be blissed out, we came here for the lessons. We came here for the experience. Sora said, I want you to experience it all. How you experience it is up to you. If you're given a challenge, like I'm just typically a happy-go-lucky person, anyways. Like I'm human. I have emotions. I express them, but I don't live in them for too long. I build a bridge and get over it. like, but but there was a time in my life where maybe I didn't build the bridges quick enough. Maybe I took longer to build that bridge because I didn't have that awareness, even though I had my angels and guides. And everybody goes through their time of understanding, okay, what is the lesson in this? How is this, how it's not how it's serving me, but what can be a purpose for this? And there's always something. There really is always something, even if you don't know what it is. How is that serving you? And if you don't know, you could always call me and talk to me as a hypnotherapist or a medium, and I can give you some insights, by just tuning in. But people are going to be tuning into themselves. That's more important. Instead of going and reaching out to even a medium or hypnotherapist, or this is the future from onward now to generations onward, that people are going to just tune into themselves and ask themselves, in the state of clarity and silence, like, what is this serving me? What is this lesson teaching me? And knowing that there's no blame, there's no guilt. I talked to this gentleman yesterday about it. So important. This is the message I gave to the people. Source said there's never any blame. Don't blame anybody, really. Not even yourself, to go, okay, this happened. There's a purpose, and just kind of process it and try to release that emotions from it. Cry, whatever emotions you have, sad, confusion, have those emotions, but you need to release them, because if you don't release that energy gets stuck into your body, in this third dimensional body, and then actually that energy creates diseases. And I know, because I actually feel, like this man I had yesterday, I felt the different parts that I told him after the show, where it's kind of blocking him, and I feel it literally, like, to that person I'm talking to. And if they're not released, they become diseases and even more. So that energy balls, those they call blockages. Basically, it's just emotions that you have that are not processed, but they need to be released. You could release them by talking to somebody, a therapist, anything. There's a million things you could do. Write it down, exercise, anything to release it. And that's super important for people to understand that we need to talk more. Not just you and I in your podcast. The last thing I'm going to say, we need to talk more to each other. And if you somebody you can trust, then get a therapist. There's tons of groups for free. You can call, like I said, me or me, anybody, but do not get stuck in your own head and your own mind. Please reach out to somebody because if you don't, that emotions that are usually the negative, right? The positive just kind of lifts you up and bring you up, right? The negative ones get stuck inside and they create diseases. So let's not do that. like, you know, I
Yeah,
just kind
it's,
of want to throw that in.
no, I 100% resonate with that, and, for anybody who does need some type of psychological help or a therapist, I'm not sponsored by them at all, but betterhelp.com is actually really inexpensive, and you
Yeah.
do it all online. They're actually really great. They set you up with a wonderful therapist. I highly recommend them for anybody wanting to try it. But it's exactly what you said about the, let's call them negative emotions. The negative emotions creating diseases inside of your body. I remember being a kid and my father telling me, like, "Do you know what disease is?" And I'm like, "When you get sick." He says, "Well, disease is dis-ease. Your body is no longer at ease. So there's something within you that's blocking your body's ability to be at ease, which causes the dis-ease." And he says that once you're able to, as you say, release those energetic blockages, whatever they may be, then you do start to feel better and you start to feel more healed. Now, from a very physical perspective, what will usually happen is that when we are in our feels, in our negative feelings, and we live there for a very long time, you start having more and more unhealthy habits and different emotions tend to have different physical effects on people, and we tend to respond to them very similarly, such as heartache obviously hurts your heart, but most people actually go into like a binging and overeating um, type state and also become very lethargic. And this is when you start having a lot of stomach and intestinal issues. And it really has to depend on really why your heart broke, but I'm more speaking towards, like, more relationship-wise. And, that's why you start having those type of physical issues, and you start having a lot of issues with your lower body because the energy is now trapped here in your heart. So your lower energetic chakras, your lower energetic fields, where your intestines are and your reproductive organs are, all of that becomes affected, and then you start having disease in those particular areas. People have like stomach cancers and stuff like that. Oftentimes, when you have a blockage in your throat chakra, this can be because you feel silenced. Maybe you feel like you can't speak your truth. Maybe you were abused, and you just couldn't speak up. A lot of these individuals oftentimes become smokers and drinkers, and this destroys your lungs and this destroys your liver. And, that's really how these things start to show up. So when you're able to clear your emotions, clear those energetic blockages, it clears the physical aspects of what's going on. It's everything is connected, our physical bodies, our emotional bodies, our spiritual bodies. All of when we say be in balance, that's what we mean. We're talking about, yes, go meditate, but also talk therapy is wonderful. Also, go for a walk in nature. You don't have to be an athlete, just go for a walk.
You don't have to run.
Yeah, you don't have to run, it'll be okay.
Just walk, move your body, sing,
Right.
dance. Like, yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And then, when we talk about being healthy, um and I don't know how we got into this whole health kick, but, we talk about being healthy, that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't go grab that glass of wine. It means that that glass of wine doesn't control you. It's perfectly fine to have some cookies and ice cream, but when the cookies and ice cream are controlling you, you can't live without that. You can't put it away. That's when things start to become a problem. Anything in excess is an issue. Too much water will kill you. You'll drown. You don't have enough water, your body can't function. So everything has to be within balance.
Exactly. Beautiful. And you know, the interesting thing I mentioned also, like in a podcast, is you could laugh at this, but it's because when I do my hypnotherapy, the for your body. Let's start with your body is your universe. Okay, you might have heard of that. Okay, how is that? Your body is your universe, and all your organs actually have their own personality. So your body is a universe. Every single component of your body has the emotions. Its own personality, its own emotions, and each of them is actually scientific. Ancient textbook actually mentioned this, where they're each actually organ has a different frequency to the body that resonates with certain emotions. And this they talked about, but hasn't been like researched all that much because I actually did my own research, going, what the guides told me, and I'm like, is this true? Of course I'm not going to just. I do look it up what they tell me because I'm like, that's interesting, right? And the thing is, they tell me these things and then I look it up. It's not backwards. It's not like I look it up and then I say it. Like so I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting." So, your let's say the emotion you were saying about the actually I was mentioning that yesterday, which is interesting about the heart because this individual, the heart he had and like heartbreak goes into the heart, but it's also vibrating a certain frequency too. And that's why the organs have their own personality and own emotions going into it. And it's very important to remember that everything to keep everything in balance and like exactly how you said is like you could have that cookie, you could have that ice cream, but as long as it's not controlling you these diet fads people have, it's incredible. Like honestly, I just want to say in a sense, eat what you want, but your body knows what's it knows there's a moderation, and there's certain things. Actually, there's this course that I took called energy medicine, and there's certain foods that don't resonate with the body, and it's super cool. People should try this, but I have to give credit to energy medicine, Donna Eden. I have to give her credit, so I'm about to say this little part. Please research her, she's amazing. I'd love to meet her. What you can do to test yourself actually is take an object. First, you have to test your energy. Take your hand out, and somebody's supposed to push you down and see how strong your energy is. You're supposed to keep it as straight as possible. And that tests your energetic level. Like, where are you? Are you weak? Are you strong? And if you're weak, you just actually tap yourself. Or you could just tap yourself in in your points, like meridian points, usually on your chest or somewhere else. And that actually makes you stronger. Then, to check anything. This is actually a fun experiment. I love experiments, right? Being a scientist too. I started being a scientist in my degree, but I had to stop for my daughter. Take an object now, so you have your hands straight. Now take an object, any object, could be vitamins, could be a shoe, as a joke. I've tried that before, and spoon. But I'm talking about foods now. Take a food, put it in your hand, and now somebody's supposed to push down onto your arm. And when they push down to your arm, it is amazing. Your body is going to tell you if it resonates with this, even could be clothes or jewelry, anything you could imagine. It'll tell you if it resonates with this object or not. Try this at home. You can let me know afterwards or comment down below. So push the arm down, and if it stays strong, that means it's good for you and it resonates with you. And if your arms start to go down, then it's not good for you. And I've done this test, and I'll give you an example. Like wine, for me, for whatever reason, is really great. Like both my, because me and my parents were just hanging out um, in Denmark one evening, and we are having like wine and stuff, and we're like, oh, let me hold a glass of wine. I'm like, I'm sure my hand is going to go down. Like, this is alcohol, and my hand was strong. I was like, no, because of the amino acids. So my body really loves amino acids. But both my mom and her husband, he's not my father, but he's my stepfather, went down. Like wine is not good for them. And this experiment is so interesting because it's like your body energetically knows what's good for you and not. And so yeah, you could try this super cool experiment, and it's very real. And I do. It's almost like a magic show, but it's not because it's actually real. I've tried this with friends and at parties. They don't believe me until I do it, and it actually becomes like a fun event that I actually end up doing because it's loads of fun actually.
Yeah, it's actually really cool. The other thing you can do is called the sway test, where you either sway forward or backwards, and that can represent yes and no. For people who want to go look either of those practices up, you can research what's called the emotion code theory. And it actually talks about how to utilize this to figure out which emotions in your body are trapped and where. And you can do the same thing, either the sway test or the, arm reflexology test to see where emotions are. And if you follow the emotion code, I forget the guy's name who wrote the book, but if you follow the emotion code, it actually does it helped me a lot actually, but it does help you to find where the emotions are trapped, where and why, and then when you go and meditate on it, which is what I did, it actually started to make a lot of sense. It made sense
So
on
cool.
why, for me personally, I've always had issues with love in my life, not love romantically, just being able to receive love and accept love and feeling love. I always had issues with that up until honestly a year or so ago, where I did this test on myself and I started to realize that many, many years ago when I was a child is where I first blocked myself off to love, which is why I never felt love throughout my life. And then I found that um, my parents had similar issues in their childhood. And it's not that my parents weren't loving because they were. They're amazing parents. I love them. But they just had energy blockages, and those energy blockages got passed on. And I mean, we could also talk about um, generational curses and epigenetics and how things get passed on that way. And you can release yourself from those energetic blockages and energetic fields. Earlier, we were talking about soul contracts, and you have these different contracts with not just different souls, but really aspects of your ancestors as well, and those things start to get transferred into your present lifetime. And it's really all about awareness is I guess a lot of what we're talking about today. It's all about awareness because once you start becoming more aware of these things, it makes it easier to break those bonds. Just like if you're in a toxic relationship, you can't get out of that relationship until you become aware that you're in a toxic relationship.
Yeah, exactly. You said it so perfect because awareness is everything. Like
Yeah.
when the guides told me, and I keep saying guides because really I just channel this information. It's not my own head. It's like, and kind of blown away with some of the things I say. It's like I just kind of say it and I'm like, oh, it's true. Like really blow my own mind. But they said, Joanna, it's not that complicated. People almost looking for a complicated solution.
Mm,
And really, like, the simple answer is the answer. And they're trying to like dive into like unravel the mysteries of the universe and stuff like that. And when the guys even tell me when they're going to find out what it is, they're going to laugh. They're going to be like, it's really not that complicated, really. Once it gets to, because there's a time point that's actually supposed to be unraveled, which is the time point reality of now to onward, because it's a specific time in our evolution that's almost like kind of destined. But awareness and perspective, they said the two components are like one of the main things, basically. Like your life is your perspective and it'll always be your perspective. And that's why they always say, live in your truth. What does that mean? Always know that your truth is your truth and it's valid, and don't ever make yourself small, or don't ever apologize for you being the you that you are and what you believe in. If it's not harming, keyword I think, anybody else, you're not physically harming anybody else or causing any kind of damage to any other soul, then you live your life the best way that you believe to live your life. And this is the key thing. And that, your perspective is what, source wanted, because you are source. Just wanted to kind of live life as a child. And he was mentioning, because I'm really like a kid at heart, really, and I have a child, but I just love just to kind of, be curious about life, explore life. And even if you have a broken heart, just know that it's serving a purpose for you to understand something, and always be open to knowing that there's amazing opportunities, people, places, and things that exist, but you have to shift your perspective and believing. And once you shift it, magically people come into your life. And if I had this personally, there's times that I had heavy times and experiences in my life. And then once I built a bridge and got over it, and suddenly I kind of, was feeling much happier, amazing people came in my life and opportunities like mind blowing, like showed up, really incredible. And so the perspective, we have to just go, okay, we have a lesson. It's hard, it's heavy. And as soon as you can just shift your perspective and just being aware of like, okay, the easy ones are easy. You're not gonna sit on the easy ones, the blissful ones, and go, oh my god, I'm gonna like, just sit on it and think about it all day long. You usually sit on the heavy ones, the hard ones, the challenging ones that we just can't, seem to kind of I would say get over it so quickly. It takes time for everything. But once you just have a lesson, whatever it is, and you sit down with yourself, meditation is wonderful. Nature is wonderful. A good friend, a good, non judgmental, open minded, caring, loving friend. A keyword, right? um, and just to sit with them and just talk with them and just see where you are in life and kind of unravel your lessons and then kind of just bring yourself to where you really want in life. And that's the thing is like, many people get stuck in this blame and the guilt and those emotions really and they kind of get stuck in a loop like a cycle of thoughts. We get stuck in our own overthinking, really, instead of actually creating better stuff. We go back to whatever, sorry to say, crap. That's not a curse, right? So we can say that on your show. We go back to the old stuff, and we just kind of relive it in our minds, but we're creating old junk. We're Source just wants us to create new, exciting, loving um, events. So we should start to go, ooh, what do I want to do with my life? What career do I want to have? What's going to make me happy? What's going to make me feel more alive? And it doesn't matter what circumstances you're in. You could be in a wheelchair, whatever. I mean, the worst case scenario, like, really, I mean, there's still something that you can do to have joy in your life and walk down your destiny and your path, and feeling fulfilled. And you have to look at who surrounds you, and if they're not serving you. And I had to do this in my life, and this is the hardest thing for me personally, is because I'm such a nice person that I had to learn how to be, and it's not be not nice, just to kind of remove the people in my life that are not serving me. And because that will hold you back. And if they're not serving you, really, just say goodbye and let them be. And that's the hardest thing, is kind of walk away from people or let them go, or even careers or people or
Mhm.
circumstances. I kind of, want to throw that in for your audience to process.
Yeah, no, I definitely 100% agree. One of the hardest things to do is to do what is necessary, not necessarily what you want. Because walking away from something or someone that doesn't serve you is extremely challenging because there is that attachment. And with that attachment, oftentimes comes fear, and not just fear of change, but it's the fear of the unknown. It's the fear of what do I do next? But you kind of hit the nail on the head earlier when you said that our minds are filled with junk. About 80% of what goes on in our head on any given day, for most people anyway, is on repeat. We repeat the same thoughts all day, every day. And really, it's oftentimes things that we can't control or change in the first place. So why dwell on them? We have a lot of things that occur in our past, and we get hyper fixated on these past events. Maybe this could have happened, maybe that could have happened, maybe I could have done this or done that. Fact of the matter is that's not what happened. So, as you said earlier, build that bridge and learn how to get over it. There's a book called The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster, and I forget the guy's name. I think it's like Darren something. And, he talks about how the one of the biggest challenges in being an entrepreneur is, not failing because you're going to fail. Like, anything that's new, anything that's different, you're probably gonna mess up the first, like, 10 or 20 times. The biggest challenge is getting back up every time you have a mistake, every time you mess up. But he says that the once you learn how to shorten that time period between you got knocked down to you standing back up, that's when you start seeing some real success, and that's where the change comes from. Because you're gonna get knocked down, you're gonna get kicked back, and that's okay because that's how you learn, and that's how you grow. It's when you stay down, and you never get back up, when you give up, that's when you I don't say wanna say that you lost, but giving up is really the biggest disservice that you can do for yourself. You it behooves you to stand back up and at least try to start walking again. One of my favorite sayings, I say it all the time, is that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that. I love that too. Yeah, yeah. One of the things that I, watch, I'm like, I have like, what is that one? American Idol. Oh my God, I just love American Idol, because I like singing too. You might see me on there. Who knows? One day, but I haven't. Maybe I haven't got, I would say the courage. Of course I do, but it's
But
just more
I'll
the
go with
timing.
you. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, yeah, let's go. Really, even if I sound horrible, at least I can say I did it. Like I get booed. I don't care. Say I did it. There you go. Check it off on my bucket list, right? But the point of the matter is like watching that show just inspires me because I've seen some people. Like I mean, there was this girl on there who was deaf. Okay, I'm sure maybe some people saw the episodes or some kind of disability. When you look at these people who actually have the disability and go, oh, if they could do it, and I'm worried about if I get booed, at least I'm going to give it a shot, and that's just in general. And you were talking about entrepreneurs. It's like even if you think people are not going to notice you or whatever the case or boo you, if you want to give it like a labeling on it, which I don't like to label. The thing is, we have to really get over the fact, even myself, don't get me wrong, of judgment of what I'm talking about. I mean, this is kind of out there stuff, and this is what kind of held me back for a while, but it's also timing. Actually, it was timing because I trusted the guides in telling me when I should speak about this, and the time is now. And they said, Joanna, it really is time. So they're kind of like pushing me, not physically, but just, like encouraging me. Um, but, talking about these things I'm talking about with you is really out there. So will I get judged? Of course. Will I get comments of people not believing what I say or commenting, whatever? I'm aware. I am fully aware that I will get those comments, and I'm strong enough in myself by now, seeing it for so long. I was trained basically for 11 years of all these things, being aware that I will get comments, but then I'll get the other side. And I'm not here to make anybody, I'm sorry to say, happy. I'm just here to speak my truth of what I see, and I can't deny it anymore. And I just want people to understand whatever your truth is, as long as it's not harming anybody, like that's a key word, right? Whatever your truth is, in the highest light, the highest form, whatever it is, whatever you enjoy doing with love and passion, do it. You have this one life to live, and if there's something inside of you, there's another quote I like is don't die with the music inside of you. That's one of my favorite quotes. And was it from Wayne Dyer or something? And Wayne Dyer visited me, by the way. I talked to him a lot. That a time travel thing he did, by the way. I'll talk to you about another thing, which is epic. Actually, I've been having a lot of souls. There's a difference between ghosts and spirits and time travel people that I had, which is really out there stuff that I will discuss, kind of mind blowing stuff. But the point of it is, don't let the music die inside of you because you have this one life to live. And if we're going to sit there and worry what other people think, then, then it's going to stop you from everything. You're going to live the life. Who cares? Honestly, who cares? Even if you get booed, you're probably going to see me on American Idol after this, anyways. I don't care if I get booed. At least I say I did it, and and I'll just say that that it was just something I always wanted to do. Not that I wanted to make it into career. I just it's in my soul. I love to sing, and whatever you love to do it, even if you think it doesn't make money. And everybody here in this reality is, of course, you want to do something that makes money. Everybody's all about money. I understand. Energy is money. That energy flow of money and what you do, your time is money. But when you put that energy into something you love, you actually magnetize the abundance within you. So it creates the abundance to come towards you like a magnet. So when you do something that you love, not only will you receive um, things from it, positive, abundant things from it, but you will just be happy in your life saying, you know what, I did it. And I think what holds people back, I'll just give you one example, is like, let's say this individual that I know that he had a business and he loves it and he's happy and he's like but he's like, yeah, but it's okay if I don't make enough money. But then he blocks himself because instead of saying and being in that joy of saying, hey, I'm so happy to be doing this, I know it's going to bring me wealth and abundance and all this stuff, he's saying, no, I know I won't make a lot of money with this, but it's okay, I'm happy. But saying that, even that statement to yourself, is actually limiting yourself. And I told him, dude, don't say that. You could literally have an amazing career in business, but you are actually blocking your own self. You are blocking yourself, And this is what we have to remember, that when we see these people who are like entrepreneurs, and they all could, like, there's going to be more millionaires anyways in the point now to the future, really, because when people realize what we're saying, which they already know, really, is don't block yourself from your own abundance. Don't say negative things to yourself. Don't. Don't ever. Even if somebody else tells you, don't believe them. Don't even believe yourself. Only say positive things because you're creating it. And I can go on because I'm really passionate about that. But I want you to mention whatever you feel about that, Dexter, because I think it's
Yeah,
super
no,
important for
I
people
do
to know.
100% agree with you. I think that's funny because I tell people all the time about not speaking negatively about yourself, and it took me a very long time to get to a place where I no longer did that, and it took me even further to get to a place where I felt comfortable telling other people to not do that to themselves. But what I really wanted to touch on was what you were saying about having a, let's call it, a passive negative mindset about finances and money. I think a lot of us do that. A lot of us will sit here and say, "Well, I want more money, but it's okay if I don't have it. If I don't have that." You just putting that limiter upon yourself. You just gave the universe permission to say, and I don't want to say permission as if you can't tell the universe to do something, but you just gave the universe permission to say, "Oh no, you're okay. You're content with where you are. So no, you don't need more." Clearly, you just said this is fine. And I was talking to a gentleman yesterday about business, and it was this meeting I was having, and I'm trying to make this next step. He stopped the whole meeting and looks at me and goes, "You really don't like selling things to people, do you?" And I told him no. I was like, "If I'm being completely honest with you, like, I don't know. I've never saw myself as a seller. I don't really see myself as this salesperson." And he said to me, "Well, you need to get out of the helping people mindset. There's nothing wrong with that. But you also need to be more profit driven because if you keep telling yourself that it's okay, exactly what you just said, if you keep telling yourself that it's okay if I don't make any money because I'm helping, so many people, which that's all I want to do is help people." His comment right after that is, you can't help that many people if you're not making money. Because to do what you wanna do, you have to have more finances, like, you just have to. In order for you to walk away from the 9 to 5, in order for you to be full-time doing the things that you're doing, in order to truly grow, you helping yourself will help so many more people. So, you just have to shift that mindset. And really just let it all go. Let go of this constraint that we have on finances and money because it is all energy. As we said earlier,
Yeah,
everything is energy. Everything is particles of light, and they just take different forms when you start to zoom out from those particles of light. So we are that financial abundance. We are that God hand that just gives and feeds to ourselves.
yeah,
But yeah, I
it's
just think it's
beautiful.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I was thinking of that before you mentioned that before our podcast, and I actually do want to touch on that because I was thinking about that. The thing is, it's so important to really do what you love. Do you know why? I mean, you could guess, right? You could just kind of like say, "Yeah, I know why." Do what you love, really. Even if you can't do it full time in the beginning, even if it's part time, even if it's in the evening and nights, like I've done because I have a daughter and I have to kind of like manage things, because when you do what you love, I'm so passionate about being a hypnotherapist in the medium and just talking about this. I mean, you like look at me, I'm like glowing, because I love talking about this. I love what I do. And when you have that passion in you, not only do you light up and you want to actually talk about it. It's like when I sell, I'm actually not selling. I'm just talking about the hypnotherapy that I love, the changes that it makes, whatever it is. So even whatever it is, everybody has a passion to do something. Even like if it's selling toilet paper, I don't know, maybe you love selling toilet paper. I don't know, maybe somebody out there does. But the point of the matter is when you do what you love, even if it's on the side of the part-time, it will expand into more because when you put that energy of love and creation and focus on that, it will expand. That's how creation works because that momentum you built into it, it's going to want you to, you don't even have to sell it. Like me being me and talking about my hypnotherapy, you see my passion, you see how my dedication, you see that like what I do, I'm so dedicated because I see the change, I want the change, and all of it in combination, and people are going to see that. I don't have to prove anything. I have my proof in my testimonials, my clients, and the repeat clients that I have, and friends, and it's really expanding for me because I'm stepping into myself. And I had a fear for a long time because of talking about this otherworldly stuff too. And I'm finally stepping into myself, and when we step into our truths and our do what we love, we don't have to sell. He should have told you that. He should have been like, Dexter, just do what you really love because once you do more of that, which is this. Well, I'm hoping other podcasts and stuff and other things, and combine, like, add in what you love, and you have to think about what do I love doing, and add in what you love doing. Then you won't have to sell. Then that's the thing. It's like I want the spiritual community really is such a loving, high vibrational community, generally speaking, because we're old souls. And a lot of the spiritual community is very old souls, and they came here for a certain reason, incarnation, to raise the younger souls up, to get us all together, like as a family, really, like in a sense, right? So by being the older souls, we just want to give. We just be like, I want to do it for free. I do it for love. I do it because I just want to help. That is a mindset of actually, a lot of the spiritual community people. And the thing is, it's not so much about the profit. It's about once they do what they love and they find the uniqueness of what they do, and just have to sit there going, okay, what makes me unique? What makes me stand out? Because every single soul is unique and one of a kind. I promise you that. I don't say promises I can't keep. I promise you that. And there's something with each individual that you can bring forth to the world that they're going to be like, wow, that's cool. She's unique. Oh, she's doing that or he's doing that, and that's going to make you stand out alone and do what you love, really. And then find courses that will help you facilitate that, because I have study courses, YouTube videos. There's so many things for free, right? YouTube for free. Oh my god, what don't they have on YouTube for free? Really, this is a really amazing time to build a business or a career or yourself, because there's so many resources that are free,
Yeah.
really. And it's a really incredible time to really do what you love, to be yourself and just walk your own truth. And I just want to maybe just kind of mention that to you. So you don't really have to sell anything. You just kind of have to love what you do and it'll sell itself. That should be on the t-shirt.
That should. That'd be a check out chakrawonders.com.
Yeah. Just rewind what we just said. Actually, I just, just came up with that. It's amazing. I love
Right,
that.
it's
What did I just say?
beautiful.
I don't know what I just said.
That's like I'll put it that'll be the tagline for
I
this
don't know what that
episode.
was. That's great.
But you
There you go.
100% agree I 100% agree with you about everything being free. When I decided not to go back to grad school to get a PhD, one of the reasons aside from, a voice telling me to do this was that I had realized that when I finished up my degree in biochem, most of that I had gotten from YouTube. So, I
See?
oftentimes sat there I would go on YouTube, between YouTube, Khan Academy, and honestly, all the other free resources online. I taught myself all this information, and, I mean, you have your professors, but professors are just really just facilitators. And oftentimes there was like a TA up there teaching anyway, so when do you see the professor? And I figure why was I putting all this money and, energy into something that one, all information is free. There is no real gatekeeping of information. The gatekeeping is us gatekeeping ourselves and honestly being lazy and not wanting to go out to seek the information. When you start seeking the truth will come and you start becoming more aware. So when I decided I wanted to go do something different, I just started researching other things. When I decided I wanted to start the show, and the podcast wasn't the first thing that I did. I started with Chakra Wonders, which I still have, and that's teaching myself how to be a business, how to grow a retail brand. I didn't know how to do any of that. I read plenty of books, and I sat on YouTube, and like I said, took courses, and I talked to people. And, I was able to grow from there, and then when I decided that I wanted to start, being on podcasts and being on shows, I had no desire of starting my own. It was I just wanna talk about this stuff. I wanted to get out there, I love talking about it, it's fun for me, and I love talking to my friends about it. So I wanna get out there and talk to others and just have more authentic and genuine conversations. And lo and behold, one day I sat with a young lady, and I say young lady, she might have been in her 50s, 50s, 60s, and super kind soul. And she just told me I should start my own show, helped me get started, mentored me and everything. And here we are today. And honestly, it took me a year to get comfortable even speaking behind the camera. And then when I remember hearing my voice for the first couple of times, I was like, "Why do I I sound like that?" You know?
Yeah,
And I just
yeah.
stammered so much over my voice and over my words. I just had to let all that stuff go. It's just me judging me because everyone who commented on the videos, they weren't listening to my voice. They were listening to the information. They were excited to be introduced to something that's new and something that's unique for a lot of them. And like you said, honestly, it's just fun, and I love doing it.
Beautiful. Thank you. There's this quote that I wrote in my book. It's a work. Was it work with what you got? Do what you can, work with what you got. Just
Yeah.
work with what you got because we all start somewhere. That's it. And if people think like, oh, when I start, I have to be like, I don't know. It's not about not being professional. It's just look at what you need to have. Clearly you want to look at least presentable to the audience. So like you said, proper microphone if you're doing the podcast and different things, and look up YouTube videos and just start. Like I did. I started, and the first videos I did on the Instagram and YouTube. I did them, and I'm revising it because I'm starting another page. Actually, it's Confessions of a Quantum Channeler, and this is where the a weird conversation. I say weird. It's not real. It's just otherworldly conversations are going to be posted. And then I have my hypnotherapy because you have the two different audiences, so clearly it has to be kind of separated. But when I first had myself and I was listening to my voice, it's like I don't know why people just don't like their own voices. Most people go listen to them and go, ooh, oh God, I sound like that, And then I got the nicest compliments from people going, Joanna, you have such a nice, not now, because it probably sound a little annoying, but see, I'm judging myself too. But she said, wow, Joanna, you have such just a soothing voice. I'm like, I do? But that's my hypnotherapy voice because there's a different voice we pick too. So I have my hypnotherapy voice that I do. It's like, much smoother and calmer and like, very hypnotic and just my ones with friends and different things. But yeah, so I think some things that blocks people from doing maybe let's say having a YouTube channel and stuff because I was doing this course um, from Chris Reck that he has had this course about impact 60 or 60 days to impact where he was teaching he still teaches by the way how to post on social media and that taught me a lot and I'm taking that information and I'm going to start posting again because I took a pause and a lot of the people there were actually just afraid to post it because of how they sounded, like they or seen, like actually just on the video or their voice. And it's this judgment that we have on ourselves because we look at others. And this is what we have to kind of remember that do not compare yourself to anybody else. Be a weirdo. I think everybody should be their own little weirdo, really. And that's it. If we try to be like a certain person that we admire, that's amazing. That's wonderful to have somebody to look up to, but do not compare yourself to the other person because you are unique. You're going to start somewhere. And we all start somewhere. If you go back to like these people are known right now and you go back to their first video, really, there's a reason they don't post it up because they feel embarrassed or whatever. I'll post it up. I could care less. I want people to see, me as the real raw person of where I started and where I'll be, you know, and just no, even with me, I still judge myself because I'm only human. I don't say judgment. I only listen sometimes to some of the videos that I have to actually go, how can I improve to sound better so I'm more clear, so people can understand me better, right? And what maybe because I tend to wave my hands a lot. Because I just the person that I am, energy healer also. I have a lot of energy that goes through my hands, or just the person that I am. So I go, maybe I could do less of this or more of that, and maybe the way that I explain things. So I don't judge myself. I like to say constructive criticism. Have that
Mhm.
but don't judge yourself going, oh, my voice is awful. I look horrible. I looked at myself and like my hairdos that I had. And I go, oh, that was not working. Let me do something else. And I got this now. So I'm pretty happy. So, and there was
I
actually not a
love
judgment.
Yeah, I love that, and it's funny because I do the same thing. When I like I said, when I first got started, I was hyper judgmental, and now I honestly I really don't care. And I mean, like you said, make yourself look presentable, but at the same time, don't get so caught up in being too perfect. For instance, when I first started Chakra Wonders, what I really wanted to do was, I designed all the mugs and pictures and things like that, right? This is the old model, so the ones on um, my website don't look like this, but I do keep the old ones for myself. And I drew this with my finger because I didn't have
Wow.
yeah. because I didn't have
Super
a,
cool.
which was the whole point of that, but I didn't have a, iPad, so now I do digital art, and I didn't have an iPad, I didn't have the pencil, didn't have any of that. I was on my laptop, and I just drew the little mouse pad that's on there, I just drew it out with my finger, and the edges were all janky looking, and, I just but that was all I had, and that was the best that I could do with at the time. A few, months later, my partner actually got me this big iPad, and we went and got the pencil, and I could actually draw. But then now I had an iPad and a pencil I didn't know how to use. So, then I had to teach myself how to do that. Then I taught myself how to Photoshop, and I taught myself how to do all these other things. And now the thing that started like this now looks like this, if you can see the shirt.
Well, yeah, yeah.
You
That's
know?
amazing.
And
Exactly.
that's where the progression is, but if I had just stopped in the beginning and gotten so concerned with what the final product was gonna look like, then I probably would have never made it, as far as I have, and same thing with, the books and everything that I've written and the different journals and the shows. Even when my first 2 or 3 episodes of the podcast, if anybody ever goes to watch them, personally, I don't think they're that great. The content is amazing. I think all of my guests have been wonderful. The content is great. But when I first got started, I didn't have a good webcam. I didn't have the mic. I got this mic actually for Christmas, and then when I got it, I didn't know how to use it properly. So, all that to say, don't allow the things that you feel like you're lacking to hold you back. Don't allow your fear or your judgment to hold you back, because I've only had positive comments. Like you, I've had people say that my voice was relaxing to them. I'm like, "Oh, you serious? Really?" I will say those have mostly been during the guided meditations though, which does have the more calm and relaxing, voice to it. But, you just can't do that. You can't hold yourself back when you wanna push forward and try something different and new.
Yeah, beautiful. Exactly. Exactly. And it just reminds me of just my journey, right? I think that the last thing I'll just mention, because it was such a long, amazing conversation with you. I loved every, minute of it. And the last thing I'll just say about my personal journey is like, just looking back of, where I started my life, even as a teenager, just teenagers in general, we have so much peer pressure, social pressure, family pressure. I mean, really, from all different angles, including ourselves. I mean, we judge ourselves the most, and then you have all these other elements, but really, we judge ourselves the worst. And even like going out to a party or something, and I was like, what are they going to think of me? How do I look? Like, oh, is this nice enough? Is this whatever sexy enough? Like just whatever you're going for, classy, sexy, whatever, man, woman, and look in the mirror and ask opinions. What do you think? What do you think? The thing is, in the end, it really doesn't matter what they think, as long as, I mean, it's not, depending on what the party is and stuff like that. You can ask for advice just to kind of to get a constructive criticism, but in the end, if you feel comfortable in it and it's appropriate enough, let's put it that way, at least put that, say that, then wear it and feel confident in yourself, and don't care what anybody else thinks. And this is what I had in my life. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure many people have this, where there's so much judgment that people have about themselves. How do I look? And ask other people for advice. When really, like when I did my hair like this or whatever makeup I don't ask anybody. I used to, trying to get some validation. I don't get care anymore, as long as I'm happy, because I went through my own, where I asked way too much of validation. And I'm sure we all do it, especially, I like to say, the celebrities. They want to get, and no judgment to them, but I understand, because they have a persona to upkeep. Well, you know what? This is going to be my persona. And this is the upkeep of me, of being real. And I'm not going to, and once we change that in society, of this upkeep of how they're supposed to look to the world, it's going to shift. And this is another thing of the societal shifts, is like the way that you present themselves. They should be themselves and dress amazing and feel good, but not this upkeep. There's an upkeep that they do when then the kids, or whoever, it's not even kids, just anybody looks at them going, oh, I want to look like whatever, Beyonce or somebody else, but the thing is, do you know how much stress and pressure they go through just to have their upkeep? And it's time to be more raw, real, and honest, and actually, and bring it back to just not having like this facade, if you want to say it, or something like that. You know, let the layers come off. Be yourself. Don't care what other people think. Don't wear makeup if you don't want. You know, sometimes you see the celebrities wearing, I'm not wearing makeup, getting judged, or whoever else. You know, there's too much of that, and for them to expect to be a certain person, a certain appearance, a certain style, where in the end, what is a soul? In the end, it's about our, like you said, our content. The soul has its content. That's what's inside. You know, they say, really, of course, be presentable to the world. Don't scare them. You know, like be presentable enough, you know, to feel comfortable in your own body. But you know, what does that even mean? That's such a broad spectrum. You know, I'm really, but in a sense, it's about your content, what you present to the world, and in a way that you feel is comfortable to you. That's the point I wanted to say, and I think that's probably the last thing I say because I said so much.
Yeah, no, for sure, and I agree with you. It's all about presenting who you are, but first, you need to understand who we are and ask yourself who you are. I truly do appreciate you coming on today, and yeah, I know we went over way over the intended time, but that's okay, and I wanna thank everybody who really stuck with us for this longer episode than we normally do, but I really, truly enjoyed having this conversation with you. And, maybe we can get you back on probably in a few months after we
Yes.
air a few more of our shows. And
Exactly, exactly.
yeah,
Let it process first. It was amazing talking to you. Thank you so much for, we kind of went across the broad spectrum from spiritual to everything really. So I'm sure maybe some viewers really, hopefully many of them stayed on to listen to this because it's a really rich conversation we had. So thank you so much.
yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Joanna. Truly do appreciate you. And thank you, everybody, for tuning into this episode of Onion Soup. Have a great one.